Here we are, making sticky buns with the lovely and talented Francis.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Francis and I used to work together at Skin and Bones. We've been friends for a million years. He's a lovely young man. He's currently learning how to be a butcher at the Healthy Butcher on Eglinton with another dear friend of ours, Brando, who should be here but isn't. So there's your shout out, dude. So next time, we totally expect you. Why did you choose to make sticky buns?
I've never made it before, actually, so I always wanted to make it and figured you're the right person to show me.
Aw, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also you wanted to make sticky toffee pudding.
I did because, I don't know, I'm just reminiscing the days when we used to work at Skin and Bones, and then Cam and I used to make it a lot, and I guess...
I think that's a good enough reason. Sometimes when you make food, you want to get back to a place. Or at least I do. I don't want to presume for everybody, but something that is evocative of childhood, and so it's comfortable and it's safe, or that's, you know, a job that you had before that was really fabulous. And I mean, we had a really good group of people. It was pretty magical in an awful lot of ways. So
yeah, for sure.
It's something I've really strived to recreate, and sadly it hasn't happened yet, but who knows, you know?
Soon it'll come.
You're all still young, so, you know, there's time. So in order to make the sticky buns, first you have to start with the dough, and we're going to today make a buttermilk brioche. So in the mixing bowl, we have proofed our sugar and our yeast and our blood temperature buttermilk. It should be nice and frothy and floofy at this point in time. So if you want to turn the machine on just slowly to start, that would be great. And this is one of those million years ago KitchenAids, but she still works, she still goes. And oh my God, you, Francis, still with the elbows. Still with the elbows.
Still with the, yeah, I'm
Jesus,
I mean,
you're totally.
It's my thing.
It's your thing. So we have mixed together in the bowl the salt and the flour and a little bit of baking soda. So you're going to add that gently to the bowl.
Yep.
And I'm just going to turn this down because otherwise the flour will end up everywhere.
Yeah.
And so put in a cup, let it mix. Put in another cup, let it mix. After you've added about 2 cups of flour and it's come together, it will kind of look like paste. At that point, you're going to add your eggs, and then you're going to add some more flour. If you've done it correctly, there will be a ball of what looks, it will look too firm. It will look like this is never going to be brioche. Oh my goodness, what have we got here? Because it has brown sugar in the dough as well, it's going to look a little darker. It's not going to be the pale brioche that you might recognize. And then you're going to add the cubes of butter into it slowly so that it incorporates and homogenizes, and it will look unusual if you're not familiar with brioche, and then it will all come together and it'll be this beautiful cohesive ball, and you'll know you've done the right job. So add your eggs.
Yep.
You're going to throw 3 eggs in there.
3 eggs, yep.
I'm going to suggest that you have the machine turned off and you either crack the eggs beforehand and pour them in, or turn the machine off and just crack them in directly. In case you get shell fragments and the machine is running, then you can't stop it. And you see how it looks kind of gluey?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to look. Don't be concerned about that.
Yeah. It kind of feels like it's wrong.
I know. I know it does, but it's not.
I mean, I've never made it before,
some breads, for example, like you're making a challah, which is also an enriched bread. You're going to have your eggs and your oil and possibly a little bit of orange juice or orange zest, whatever you want to flavor it. And you're going to have that with your yeast and your milk at the beginning, and it's all going to come. Do you remember when we used to make the hamburger buns?
Yes.
At Skin and Bones. So it would all just kind of come together, and it was beautiful. This will end up that way. There's some right behind you, so you get a sense of what the dough will look like at the end.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent of making a mayonnaise or a hollandaise if you were doing something on the stove.
Right.
And so you're adding your oil or your melted butter slowly at the end, and then you have this beautiful, voluminous, voluptuous sauce. This is the same. Oh, way to go!
Oh my God!
So much
Jesus
mess.
Christ.
Anyways, so when you add your butter at the end to the dough, it's the same principle as if you were making a hollandaise or a mayonnaise, or if you were even like monteing a sauce before you're putting it out for service. And the dough itself, with the butter in it, it then becomes very firm. The yeast, because the butter is there, the yeast takes its sweet time rising. I like to make a brioche dough sort of a day and a half before I'm going to use it, because it needs that time to develop. The bubble structure of the bread is also smaller because the butter holds the yeast down a bit, but gives it that richness. Having brought it together, one nice round, ball, put it in the bowl, a little bit of butter on the bottom, throw a little saran wrap on top of that, forget about her until tomorrow. Perfect. You can let this rest for, if you're pushing it, you can let this rest for 1 to 2 hours in the fridge and then pull it out and then let it rest at room temperature for 1 to 2 hours and then proceed. I think it's better if you just put it in the fridge and forget it. It just gives you a nicer overall product. Bread appreciates time. Yeast appreciates the time. So we're just going to put this aside and we're done. All right, so now we have the dough that is rested, the miracle of TV. We're going to tip that out of the bowl. Put it on the table, see if it needs a little extra flour. If it does, we'll add it. If it doesn't, we won't. I think I'm going to just jump in here, Francis.
Yeah.
You can see, I hope David can see the difference between the top of the dough where the gluten has been developed and the bottom of the dough, which is damper and a little, looks like it has more bubbles. It also, because this is sat for a little while, it has a lovely yeasty aroma. It smells kind of like fresh beer, almost. So we're going to do that, and we're going to fold and do that. And again, you're just stretching some gluten skin and give it not too much of a knead. You don't want to work it too much. You just want to make it more homogeneous. If you could just put a little, just a whisper of flour down, I think that will facilitate things. And then in that drawer there, you will find couple of rolling pins. If you get past the mess, there's a big one, there's a little one, whichever you're comfortable with.
This one should be fine.
That was Nana's. It's my personal favorite rolling pin. So this amount of dough that we've done in this little ball here will give us 12 lovely cinnamon buns or sticky buns when we're done. We want to be able to roll it out sort of to the size of a half sheet. So if you want to do that, I'm going to estimate 15 by 17. I'm just pulling that number out of my ass. It's bigger than a 9 by 13. And however you want to make it work. It will take a moment. The dough will come, it will go out, it will come back, it will go out, it will come back. That's perfectly normal. When you're rolling it out, if you think about rolling it up like a snail, so you want it to be a little rectangular in one way, in one way a little longer in the other. And I don't know if David's able to catch this on camera, but as the dough is being rolled, there are little tiny bubbles that you're going to see, and you'll hear like a little cracking noise, like a little bit of crackling with the dough, and that's simply where the butter has formed pockets, and the yeast has formed pockets, and it's a kind of a neat, it's a positive sign when you see that. It means your dough is definitely headed in the right direction.
Now, how thick are we rolling this hinge?
We are rolling it to about as thick as my baby finger. So what is that, like a centimeter maybe?
All right.
As evenly as you can.
Yeah.
Part of the beauty of being artisanal is that it's all right if it's not perfect. You're also doing this at home. You're not presenting it to a client to sell. So there's a difference with that. And I think until you are entirely confident with what you're doing, you should always cut yourself that kind of slack. It's never going to be perfect first time at all. I'm going to suggest that we simply flip this, pick this up, and flip it a little bit, because again, and anybody would be doing this, you can see where it's thinner in the middle and thicker on the sides. We do want to be able to even that out a little bit, but you're also seeing that we're not using tons of flour. We don't want to dry the dough out. We just want to even things out. I would say you're hired. Good job.
Thanks.
Right?
Yes.
Yes, there you go. Phew, I know it was a lot of pressure. All right.
I didn't know I was coming in for a stage today.
Well, how many times have you done that, though? It should be second nature to you at this point. And yes, exactly. Use your fingers if you have any concerns or questions. I would say this looks really nice. Yeah, right there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I that moment, I could feel that moment. So, oh, you know the other thing we need to do before we go any further, we need to make the goo for inside. I forgot about that. I have some goo made because we were ready for filming, but you take the same bowl that you mixed in. Mm-hmm. You don't need to wash it out. Take the mixer bowl. It's okay if it has a little bit of dough residue in it. Don't worry, don't worry. Oh my God. Oh my God, don't worry. In the drawer at your waist, I believe, is the paddle.
The paddle, yep.
Yep. So put that in there. I've already measured out for you.
This one, right?
Yes, the spices. So there's brown sugar, there is cinnamon, there is fresh nutmeg, there's a little bit of ginger and coriander, or sorry, cardamom, not coriander. So it's sort of chai spice, for want of a better expression, and some brown butter. And there you go. You just mix it up and you bring it together. Almost like you were making a streusel topping or an icing, and it will end up looking just like this. So it's buttery and brown and fragrant and lovely, and it will melt into itself, and it will infuse the dough with all the sticky bun flavors that you're looking for. You can also chew this. You could add some orange zest. You could add some rum flavoring. You could add some chocolate chips. You could do pretty much whatever makes you happy. Traditionally, I think of a sticky bun as not having too many components. Think of a Chelsea bun as having currants, or a pecan bun, obviously with pecans. Standard cinnamon bun often has raisins. But I think we're going to be fairly pure and traditional here.
Dates would work out as well. No?
Dates would work beautifully.
Figs.
Yep. Oh, figs would be so nice.
Oh yeah, figs
So
are really
nice.
nice.
Unfortunately, I took all the dates that we would have used, and I've already put them towards the sticky toffee pudding that we're working on. But yes, in the future, definitely the way to go. And if you could get like the medjool dates, or sometimes at this time of year you get the fresh dates that are still yellow, that are still on the stems, in the fancier food stores, of course. They're such a different animal. It's just like a mouthful of honey. It's incredible. Definitely worth looking for.
Okay.
So if that's all come together
Yep.
as a schmear,
As a schmear, yes.
then that's great. And since we have to empty out the mixing bowl anyways. We're going to just throw that on there entirely. Show. Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Would that be enough?
That is going to be enough. Yep. Whatever you've got is going to be perfect.
All right.
Because the butter is a little cool, because the room is a little cool, because, oh, it's November, I'm just going to pull this apart. If this were in the heat of summer, it wouldn't be any kind of question. Also, when you are rolling the dough, always keep a good lip free, because you're going to want to attach that. So what we're going to do is take your spatula. I'm just using my fingers because that's what I have. And we're going to smear this as best as possible.
I'll just use my hands.
Oh, okay.
Ready.
I think what would also, again, not traditional to what we're doing, but if we had pastry cream, that would make a beautiful addition. That would make it very rich and very perhaps next time. All right, if you want to reach into that small drawer ahead of us, over by where David is. Yep, in the top you will find a whole bunch of little palette knives, like a lifetime supply's worth. And that would probably be a nicer way of going about this, certainly easier. The dough is going to wrinkle a little bit. Don't be too alarmed with that. Try and keep it as smooth as possible. You don't want pockets that are too thin or too fat. But there we go. And if there's a few gaps, again, that is perfectly okay. I'm going to just take from some that we had before. It's sort of like if you were making a brownie or a cake and you wanted like a little marble swirl, there'd be places that would be plain and places that would have bigger pockets. That's what we're doing here. Do you feel confident rolling this up, or do you want me to start it?
Show me how to do it. I want to learn how to do it.
It's like rolling a big fatty. Really. A really, really big one. And you just go from the end. And so you can see you've sort of caught the lip. You've got everything going, and now you can just push it forward. It doesn't need to be entirely compact and tight. Exactly. Yep. You want to be firm but gentle. Gorgeous. And then where you have your lip where there's nothing, just give that the gentlest of pinches all the way around, and then let it rest on that where you've pinched everything. The idea behind doing that is so that after you've cut it, when it is proofing, when it goes in the oven and it bakes, they will still stay somewhat circular instead of opening up. So that's grand. Beside you, you will see some 9x13 pans. Yep. And on the stove by David, there is some caramel. You can grab. There's.
This one?
We could do the chocolate one, or we could do the.
Let's do this one.
Okay. So this is a very traditional stovetop caramel. It is 5.5 cups of sugar, 1.5 cups of water, a pound of butter, and a liter of cream. Pinch of salt at the end, which we're doing right now. Whisk it all together. Take your sugar to the color that you want it to be. Take it off the heat. Add your cream, add your butter, bada boom, she's done.
Perfect.
It really is. It's tasty and delicious, and you can do anything with it. I don't know that putting butter in the pan helps things not stick with all that sugar, but it's tradition, so that's what we're going to do. The other thing I would ask is on the counter over there, there are some walnuts in a container and some fresh cranberries. And so, the walnuts are salted and toasted and roasted, and they're delicious. You should pop a few in your mouth because they're tasty. pardon me. What I am going to do is just free pour this into here. You want a nice coating. You don't need as much of an abundance as you think because you can always add more. But in the bottom of the pan we have, I'd say 3 millimeters worth of stuff, and into that, just to mix things up a little bit, it's going to crunch some walnuts. And scatter a few of them. Francis is going to open up a bag of cranberries and throw a few in there. Mostly just for color and texture, not because it's necessary, but it's a great day in November, so why not? By doing this now, instead of doing it in advance, you've also given your roll a few minutes to rest, and you will find, like with any yeast product. So this guy, you are now going to cut into 12 pieces. Don't be worried, you can cut on the table, it's all right. There are bread knives if you'd prefer. This is fine too. Start in the middle.
Yep.
So you've got 6 on each side. Don't be too concerned, the ends will make all of that work. And then each one from the 6 goes into 3, so cut your 6 in half again. And then each one of those.
Okay.
You can do each piece into 3 pieces. And you can see, because the dough is still cool to the touch, and the filling was cool to the touch, it's cutting fairly easily. The room is also cool, so that definitely helps. How are you finding this for cutting?
The knife?
Well, no, I mean, you can talk about the knife. I was thinking more about the dough. Like, are you finding the dough easy to work with? You're not some doughs or some projects that you take on, they can be intimidating. You can think, fuck, I don't know, especially if you haven't made it before. I find this dough to be very friendly. So then, you're going to keep in mind, when you're lining things up, on the outside it's going to cook first.
Yeah.
And so you want to place things as evenly as possible. In my mind, I would do 3 rows of 4 in each when you're setting them up. So we have these sticky buns in the oven. They've proofed, they're boofy, they're lovely. We've also put them on a tray just in case there's any caramel spillage as the buns raise. You will smell bread, and after about 15 minutes you're going to want to go in the oven and rotate them around from the top to the bottom, from side to side. The buns on the outside are going to be working harder than the buns on the inside, and things are going to cook from the outside towards the in, so don't be alarmed or surprised by that. After another 10 minutes, so say after 25 minutes, they should be the color of a cutting board or a lovely piece of toast. There will be a certain firmness to them, so when you tap at them, you will just intuitively, even if you're not a baker, intuitively you will know that they're going to be done. You've got to have faith in yourself and faith in what you're doing. After half an hour, I'm going to say from the total time they went in the oven, so half an hour has passed, I think it's probably safe to take them out. They should be an even or mostly even shade of brown, similar to the cutting board. The edges might be a little bit darker. Don't be worried about that. Again, because there is caramel on the bottom, you're going to let them sit. I'm going to say for 10 minutes so that they cool down, but they're not cold. You're also going to want a large tray. So probably the cookie sheet that you've put them in the oven on, if it has a sibling that's clean, you're going to flip it over in one motion, and we'll show you that when they come out of the oven and when they're rested. But at this point, they're in the oven, you're having faith in your abilities, you're having faith in the oven, it's all going to be great. Pick up all the pans together. Even though it doesn't seem to make sense, but it will give you a certain amount of stability.
You filming?
Yeah.
Just throw it on the floor even if you need to, sweetie. Is it happening, or do you need a little... Look at you.
Lovely. Before.
And when...
Oh, it's still on.
In there. No more.
Ruby. Ruby.
Yeah, so we had a lovely day today with my friend Francis. We used to work together at Skin and Bones. It was a really lovely time there, and we sort of tried to recreate those feelings. We made some sticky toffee pudding cake, and we made some sticky buns, which I used to make for brunch when I could still do brunch back in the day. They're both just tender and lovely, and we hope that maybe you'll try them and enjoy them. And hopefully, if you are able to recreate them, it will bring you the same sort of feeling of comfort and friendship that we were able to enjoy ourselves.